And good afternoon, everyone. We are here for the United States Grand Prix with the Tall and Short of It podcast race companion, Aaron. It's good to see you here in my living room.
I know, live and in person. First time we've done this for a race, and it should be a pretty good one. Beautiful day down in Austin, Texas for the U.S. Grand Prix. So,
Yeah, it seems like now obviously our weather is a little different, but from the fans in the stands, we got hats and sunglasses, smiling faces in the sunshine. So yeah, I imagine it's a beautiful day down there. Now to talk a little bit of to set up a little bit for the race here. Now we know from qualifying and FP3. There was increased tire degradation, increased tire wear, so that's definitely going to be a problem. We heard some of the teams talking about possibly a two-stop strategy for today. Tell me what you think.
yeah, I think we may see some different tire strategies. I wouldn't be surprised to see Mercedes and Red Bull try to go long on the first stint just to see if they can kind of get the tires to last through and do a one stop. I think that's their preferred kind of game plan, but with how warm it is, I think they said 80 degrees temperature, but the track's 96. So I think that's probably going to increase, that wear on the tires and might force some changes in the game plan. Some strat B, strat C.
96 degrees for the track temperature. That seems pretty warm. Now you're talking about plans B, plan C. How many protocols do you think these teams set up before race day?
Probably I would say five maybe.
Sure, that seems pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah, I think they very rarely would have to go down to that, but it may happen if you end up having safety cars and all. But the lights are going on, and we are racing in Austin, Texas for the U.S. Grand Prix. Hamilton got a very good start and has a very good line through turn one, sending Max off the track. Lewis takes the lead, and we have Sergio right on his tail.
Oh
actually,
my
I think.
gosh. Oh, you can keep going.
Oh,
I'm just
no.
reacting.
Yeah.
Sergio and Max are so close.
Hot start. Lewis got through, and we see the McLarens fighting with the Ferraris. That looks like Danny Ricciardo and Leclerc. We have a yellow flag, sector 1. I'm not sure, but
Goes green. We're clear.
Man.
McLaren's racing together. The Ferraris are racing right together. And we have the Red Bulls hot on the tail of Lewis.
Yeah. Lewis had a really good start there. He got up the inside line, and now Max is going to have to fight back. But it looks like Ricardo Rowe. They are so close to each other there.
He's trying to find space. Get him. Oh, we got Norris. Holy shit. Norris gets the better of that trade. Yeah. Oh, he goes on the curb a little bit.
Sainz was
Sainz wide. Dude.
Wow.
The papayas.
Making moves early on in the race. They're trying to come back at Sainz again and again. They almost both passed, one on the inside and one on the outside that last straight. Oh,
wow.
And there we see Ricardo get by through that fast turn.
And this is right in sector 1 where we have all the sweeping high-speed turns. Was that Norris that went wide?
Yeah, Norris went wide.
Followed by Yuki, Valtteri, Gasly following up close behind. We have both the Alfa Romeos down in 11 and 12. We have some shifting going on at the back of the grid with Latifi, Stroll, Alonso moving up, Vettel moving up.
Oh, and there goes Bottas on Tsunoda.
Oh,
that's tight. Yuki's holding him off and has the inside line. Wow.
Holy shit. This is a racy track.
Whew. This is great. Yuki was really just holding tight through there. He's going to try and get back at him the next straight because that Mercedes power looks real good on these straights.
Well, and that was the argument that you could make for Red Bull in this weekend specifically, because you had the tight turns of like the end of sector 2 going into sector 3 where it's so slow there, where I think the Red Bull really was able to gain up some time.
Yeah.
over the straight line speed of the Mercedes.
Yeah, Max is holding tight with Lewis right now. There in P2, just under a second behind him.
This is going to get so much easier once DRS turns on. We had no red flag at the start. You know, everybody always says, and the drivers hate hearing it, so I'll barely touch on it. You know, a lot can happen right at turn 1, especially with these drivers. So I'm happy to see everybody got away clean, and now we're just looking forward to the DRS. We have 2 DRS zones, one in Sector 1, one in long straight Sector 2. So we're going to see a couple of good attacking positions from Max, I think, here.
Yeah, I would say so. And even down towards the bottom of the grid, it got pretty racy, it looks like, because Vettel and Alonso were starting P18 and 19, I believe. And they are up in 15th and 16th at this point. So there was a lot of little fighting back and forth there. But Gasly just got past Bottas. So
that's both of the AlphaTauris.
Yeah, and Gasly started behind him, so he just jumped him during this last lap. So Valtteri down to P10, just hanging in the points right now. And DRS just was enabled. Max is in range for DRS of Lewis, so I guess we'll see him go for some opportunities over the next couple laps.
Yeah, and I think he's going to have some serious opportunity to gain time through these sweeping sections here of Sector 1.
Yeah, he seems to be able to brake a little later than Lewis is on those, and he is right on him.
Now here we go, getting a replay of the race start. We got the overhead camera, and just see how quick Lewis gets off the line. Max tries to cover him off, pushes him over the white line, just grabs him.
Yeah, but Lewis, having that inside line then, was able to really push Max out,
right,
come off the track, and lose a little bit of ground there.
Man, that camera angle they had of, like, the 2 Red Bulls, like, trying to eat him up, and he pulls away. God damn, that looks cool.
Man,
but
yeah,
look at the Ferraris and the McLarens though.
They were all over each other right at the start.
Oh, okay. We didn't see this.
Yeah, so that's Latifi and Stroll.
Oh.
Wow, Lando, great move, taking that inside.
Look at his tire. Does that look like a big flat spot?
Little. I see a little bit of something, but it doesn't look too bad.
Okay. I didn't know if he had, like, taken a chunk out of the tire or something, like if he nailed a curb hard.
Yeah. Ocon in the pit. Huh. Interesting. So Ocon had to pit very early, so going onto the hard tire definitely will be a 2-stopper for him then at that rate.
There's something interesting to be said about putting we'll say a fringe tire on early in the race, because now the other teams are going to have access to what that data is.
Yeah.
Right? Like what those hard tires are doing. While I'm sure they did most of their preparations for the medium and the softs, right? So it'll be interesting to see if this factors into the race at all. With Ocon started on the mediums, now he's on the hards after some early contact.
Yeah, so that definitely will help the other teams kind of make that decision. But yeah, refitting a new wing onto the front of Ocon's car. So he'll have a lot of work to do to get up to probably top 15 or so, but I think he'll probably be in okay shape. Lewis just took the fastest lap from Max, but Max is still just right there behind him. So
now looking at the time, the fastest lap time here, and thinking about what it was in qualifying. Now I know qualifying is low load, but it's interesting that weight difference adds, like, what is that? That's like 10 to 12 seconds or so. That's so much difference. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and their fastest laps here unless they really just go for a fastest lap at the end, changing those soft tires.
Right.
Always seem to be 3 seconds or so above the top quali times. So just the traffic on the track at that point, later on in the race and everything still just affects it so much more. But yeah, Max is hanging in there, still about 0.8 back from Lewis. So Perez has started to drop back about 3.5 seconds, and then Leclerc and the rest of the pack is just dropping further and further behind. So really, it is kind of that fight for first and second, and then hopefully we'll see some good fights during the middle of the race, kind of all throughout the grid.
Well, it seems like we're going to be set up pretty well for that. We have Norris, so Ferrari, McLaren, and then 2 of the AlphaTauris behind them. I have a feeling that those positions are going to be changing all day. Track limits. Turn 19. People are flying into this turn all day, all weekend, I should say.
He barely went outside the track limit, so I mean, definitely makes sense as time's deleted, but we shouldn't have too much concern about people getting time penalties for track limit violations or anything.
Sure.
So
the DRS advantage looked pretty good there from the Red Bull to the Mercedes, but like you had alluded to, the rest of the pack dropping back. We have Perez at about 3 seconds behind. That's it's a little further than you might like, eh? Oh, Alpine's getting close together.
And Alpine and Williams. So that's
their liveries are so similar.
Yeah.
Holy shit! I thought they were the same car.
Latifi and Ocon getting into it. Back at the back of the grid right now. But even, I mean, it's fun even seeing just any of these battles kind of throughout the pack. I think it's going to be good to keep an eye on what Bottas does and what Mercedes decides with him, because he may try to get an undercut on the AlphaTauris so he can look to jump up a spot or two, potentially put himself a little higher in the points.
Yeah, and here's another instance of Valtteri having difficulty in like the middle of the pack start and then getting positions up.
Yeah, it's just one of the things that he seems to struggle with. I feel like Lewis we always see, it's just a matter of time essentially until Lewis makes his way through and passes and all. With Valtteri, you don't know if he's going to or not.
Yeah, Lewis tends to have a very Thanos vibe, right? He's very inevitable.
Yeah.
You know, like how many races have we seen where he just overtakes every single other person on the grid where everybody else has just been in the same position and he just has 10 seconds more pace than everybody?
Yep. Just like weaving through, getting past people so quickly, and just like making his way up to the top of the grid.
Valtteri does not have that kind of battling power usually, but we'll see what he can do. But right now, at the start of the race, we're seeing Valtteri with 1 point.
Yeah, and this would be about a 10-point swing in Red Bull's favor with current positions and all. So that's
wow, you just hit that math.
Yeah.
Nice, dude.
So definitely looks good for Red Bull right now, but if Valtteri can kind of work his way up, that pulls that a little closer. Because at this pace, I don't expect him getting much higher than maybe 5th if he really starts to kind of make some moves.
Now, we'll see, and we were talking about this offline a little bit, we'll see more shakeups toward the end of the race with a 2-stop strategy, correct?
Yeah, I would expect that to be someone like Alonso here. He is coming into pit at lap 8, putting on the hard tires. I mean, yeah, it's possible he could try and ride those all the way to the end, but I would almost expect him to be someone who goes for a soft tire for the last like 10 laps or so potentially. So kind of riding those tires for about 30 some laps, and then switching to the softs for the end to get a little bit of speed, try and get past people who are going for a more conservative one stop.
So, okay, so that kind of frames the race starts a little bit. So, do the teams consider the beginning of the race, like, the first 8 laps before you switch to the hards? Was that the attacking, see if you can gain some positions early in the race, and then you drop back to, like, this is the position we're in kind of phase I guess what I'm asking is, does the pit wall see the race in multiple phases like that?
Probably a little bit.
Okay.
Because Alonso's been someone who's also been able to get a lot of passing done throughout the season so far. He's towards the top of that, like, most passes.
Him, Vettel, and Sergio, I believe, are at the top.
And so with that, like,
look at that.
He putting him on a different tire strategy, giving him better tires at a couple different points in the race, or maybe they determined already that, hey, it's going to be a 2-stopper today because of the heat, the deg that we're seeing, and everything on the tires. Let's do that now. Get onto the hard tires, and then just kind of figure out where the next best point is to pit.
Right. So that shines a little light on the pit stop as a whole. I don't think I had thought about it in like reference to phases before, but I think that could be probably pretty useful for the team. Now, I'm curious how much of the hard tire decision making is coming from what Ocon, the data that's going to be coming from Ocon.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that that kind of helped with making that decision a little bit, him coming in so early and jumping on those tires. But
seeing what the times are like.
Yeah, and if it's not too much worse than the mediums, and you're looking to get a longer life out of them, then it seems like that's kind of the way we'll see teams go. I don't feel like we will see many soft tires unless it's for like a 2-stop strategy. I expect everyone to probably be on the hard tires for one stint of the race.
Sure. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's because he went into the pits. Okay, I was going to say, well, Valtteri just got over on Yuki, but...
And so they just threw the hard tires on.
Interesting, man. 2-stop strategies. This is pretty cool. So we saw a 2.7 from the AlphaTauri boys, 2.5 for Russell at Williams in the pit. So we have initiated some pit stops. Not sure that was for the back of the table, so they just plan to be running for a good long while on those, it seems like.
Oh, yeah.
But I would like to make this note. We have, looking at the back of the grid, we have Mick Schumacher up in P13. Now, I imagine that was from some of the contact and some of the pit windows, but he's in a pretty good position now.
Yeah, he started P16 with Vettel, Alonso, and Russell all taking the engine penalties and being at the back, but still 16th, like, that's awesome. We're just hearing Max say that the tires are very hot, and so he's coming into the pits, and I guess going to be jumping on those hard tires. That was a really early undercut from what I expected, and a slower stop for Red Bull 2.9. Not as fast as we've seen.
You're talking about it's ahead of where you expected. It sounded like it was ahead of the time that Red Bull and Max thought it was as well.
Yeah.
Now, are they getting temperature readouts?
Oh, yeah.
Is that being fed to him? Can he see that on the dashboard?
No, he doesn't see it. That's probably more of a...
Or is that a feel thing?
It's probably a feel thing. It's probably, you can see, like, on the inside of your tires, like the brake barrels or like whatever they don't use like pads, they use special like brakes. Probably seeing them get like red or like maybe changing color a little bit from the heat. So things like that
Gotcha.
might be. I mean, at some points in previous races we've seen. Let's see, Max looking to get past Ricardo, jump up into fourth after that pit stop.
Who is still on the
DRS.
old mediums.
Yeah, so we see Max get by his old teammate Danny Ricks right there, moving up to P4 and kind of going after Leclerc now.
Was that, what circuit was it at that Daniel ran right up into the back of Max? Was that Baku when they were teammates? You remember that?
I do. I don't remember. It might have been Baku.
That was Monaco? Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, where Daniel just like came real hot into the corner. That was brutal, man. Oh, that's right. That was a wonky year, man, between the for the Red Bulls.
Does your computer need to be? Do we need to move the mouse?
No, I'm pretty sure I would imagine it's still recording. We just can't see it.
I just noticed the screen had gone.
Oh yeah, we're still live.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure if there was gonna be any like worry of the computer going to sleep or something like that.
No, I think it's just the display that turns off.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
I missed that radio message or part of it. Something about Max telling Red Bull to do something with Checo.
it sounds like he knows that Hamilton's going to come out behind Sergio based on pit window or something. Mm. Yeah, I didn't quite catch that. I was talking about my display. Keep it going.
All good.
I'm gonna make sure that doesn't do it again.
Oh, they're having Checo come into the pits, pit early. Okay, so Checo going from the mediums to new mediums. Oh, that was a slow pit stop. That was 3.7. But mediums to mediums, so Checo is going to be doing a 2-stop for sure then.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And Max is all of a sudden with Checo and Leclerc coming into the pits. He is now back up to P2, going after Lewis and just put in a fastest lap. So he is looking to chase Lewis down pretty hard. And there Lewis comes out right in front of I guess that's Valtteri coming out right in front of Leclerc after the pit. So Valtteri up to P4, having not pitted yet.
And then Hamilton still has to pit, even though, well, so it by the date on this readout, so Max is 15 seconds away from Lewis at this point in time. The average time lost for a pit stop is 20 seconds. So in a very short window, they're going to hope Lewis to find 5 seconds.
Yeah, well, and I think in that case, this might be a scenario where Mercedes looks to like push to do a 1-stop, because Red Bull, it sounds like, at least for Checo, since he went from medium tires to medium tires, he has to go on to a different compound during the race. So
right.
I know he has a second pit stop at some point. So maybe Mercedes, actually, I guess that would be Lewis coming in now. So they decided to pull the trigger, and Max should, even with a pretty good pit stop, Max should come out in P1 here. We should see him coming down the straight, and they're shooting past Lewis. So he's going to have a few seconds on Lewis after that pit stop, probably 4, I'd say.
Now there's not much of an age difference between these two tires now. I think Max put two
No,
laps on his.
and Max now has 6 seconds in hand over Lewis.
Yeah.
So that's pretty huge. And he is on those hard tires, just coming out hot. So Mercedes really misses out on that, getting undercut pretty drastically by Max, with only maybe 2 laps or 3 laps that Max had to gain on him, and gaining 5-6 seconds is huge.
Yeah, you have to wonder, was Mercedes supposed to answer right away?
I think you do.
Yeah.
I think
That's what Red Bull did.
Yep. And I mean, Max telling Red Bull to get Checo into the pit early too is a really smart decision, I think.
That's heads up team play.
Yeah.
Understanding, well, and we talked about it at the beginning, is the advantage that having your teammate driver up at the front,
Yeah.
To assist in these fights.
Oh yeah.
Because now it's a 2v1.
Well, and this is what I think I'm kind of expecting to happen at this point. So Checo, we know he has to do a second stop. He is on the mediums. Lewis is on the hards. So Checo has the potential with a faster tire to catch up and really put pressure on Lewis, potentially wear his tires harder. Gasly has dropped back to P16. He has an engine, something with his power unit. He is.
Uh-oh. It's probably a big DNF right there.
Yeah, but definitely dangerous. He is going so slow on the track right now, so I'm expecting some of the back markers and potentially Lewis and Max to be up to him before he's able to make it around to the pit lane.
Yeah, it was tough to tell where it happened, but it looked like
early on in the
right.
lap.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was gonna say, well, it looked like he was kind of close to the pit lane.
Yeah, so
yeah, he's gonna have to make his way all the way around. We got 10-gallon hats all the way around.
So yeah, expecting. Unfortunately, Gasly to have a DNF. I think we were looking for him to hopefully have a pretty good race, with AlphaTauri's having nice starting position, only 10 points back from Alpine in the constructors. So that's definitely going to be disappointing. So we'll have to look to see if Yuki can get back up into the points, and potentially put a couple of points up there for the team.
Yeah, especially because they both had such a good start to the race and pretty good. You just like to see the AlphaTauri's do pretty well, and it sounds like from a suspension problem, it's nothing that Pierre would have done wrong.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunate, but it seems like this track does have a little bit of bounciness to it. We see Valtteri coming into the pit lane now, getting his pit stop in at lap 16, and then we'll see kind of where he drops back to in this group. If Norris and Sainz and even Vettel and Stroll maybe can pass. So
after all of the pit stop shenanigans, we see Sebastian Vettel up in P8. He had a start at the back of the grid today, so it's good to see him. Good to see him up at the front, and he's right with Lance Stroll too, his teammate. Yeah. And oddly enough, we tend to see the Aston Martins pretty close together.
Or those just sparks. Raikkonen and Alonso getting into it. And you love to see that, two seasoned drivers having a really nice battle on the track. It looks like they both came away clean from that. I don't see any damage on either car. Just looked like some sparks flying up.
Yeah, it looked like they had gotten tangled up actually, but now that they're apart, they look pretty good. See a little bit of a lockup there from Kimi.
Yeah. Okay. let's see this replay here with Alonso. So, okay, so maybe they did touch. I don't know if he left the track to pass. That is. Oh, okay. There was a little bit of. It looks
That's what I
probably
thought.
to the side panel of the Alfa Romeo.
Gotcha.
Looks like the back tire of Alonso hit into the side.
Yeah, he went pretty wide there, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say that that Kimi should be keeping that position. I don't think that he went off the track other than being potentially forced off the track.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow, right now, the way things are looking, Checo will move up to just be 1 point back from Lando for fourth in the Drivers' Championship right now. So he is right there, just hanging back a little bit.
No, I guess Valtteri's in third, or is he much farther back?
Valtteri's third.
Okay.
Yep. So, but currently P11, a couple seconds back from Yuki. So
right outside the points.
We'll see if Yuki is able to hold that position and if Valtteri can kind of make up that ground and look to get back at him further down. But right now, this is looking really, really good for Red Bull in the points and everything. Max with the fastest lap, P1 by about 6.2 seconds. Checo's not putting much pressure on Lewis, though, so that's definitely probably a little disappointing on the side of Red Bull.
Thinking about tire strategies, though, I think we're in a holding pattern a little bit. I imagine we're going to see maybe some more action being taken closer to Sergio's second pit stop. Maybe if Mercedes with Lewis have to take a second pit stop. My concern is the amount of tire wear. I can imagine they don't want to push each other too hard until they can really get in a good position to overtake. They don't want to botch their tires.
Yeah, definitely want to look after those and everything. And with Max being kind of in clean air right now, I'm sure he's able to take pretty good care of those.
Sure.
We'll just see how Checo ends up with it. Vettel taking his pit stop, dropping back, so Valtteri back up into the points. Yuki sliding up to P9 right now. And I don't know if Stroll has pitted yet, so he may still have yet to pit.
Gotcha, okay. So he may be, he'd probably be one of the last people.
Yeah, I would imagine because I don't feel like he is pitted yet. But Valtteri quickly gaining on Yuki right now.
Who's that getting passed?
That is Stroll getting passed by Yuki. So
Yuki and Valtteri, looks like.
Valtteri,
okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
So interesting that they just both seem to blow past him.
Yeah, he didn't offer up much of a fight. I think he saw they had the pace. He might have just let him go, which would just be evidence because we haven't seen the pit thing here in a second.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not sure Lance is pitted.
That's, really interesting, though. And Valtteri right all over Yuki, so he might be able to quickly get up past him, but there's still 13 and a half seconds back from Lando up in P7. So, and even on the straight there, the AlphaTauri had good speed with the DRS from Valtteri. He still couldn't, and there goes Stroll into the pits. Yeah, so
there we go. Okay. Okay, so he did try and cover him off a little bit. Yuki had a lot more room, though.
Made the move, and Valtteri just took the cleanest line and just made his way up through.
Well, I think that's... You would have to be concerned about that as a driver. You don't want to, make a move to cover one guy off and then just, have Valtteri just plow into the back of you.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you can only make that one move in the braking zone too. So once he made that first move to cover off Yuki, he was kind of stuck where he was. So,
gotcha.
But yeah, Valtteri with the DRS. Let's see if the AlphaTauri has pretty good speed. Not quite enough though to hold off. Oh, maybe.
He's got the inside.
Yep. And there goes
He's gone.
Valtteri. So gets through up into P8. Yuki still close behind him. So we'll see if Yuki can come back. He's had a really nice drive so far. So maybe with the DRS coming back the other way, he might be able to look to make a move.
But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It really seems like the AlphaTauri has really great straight line speed as well, where, it seems like we always talk about the Mercedes having being so fast in a straight line that it's surprising that, Yuki is able to put up such a fight there.
Yeah, you would expect for most teams that are kind of middle of the grid, so below those top four, to potentially just get blown past by the Mercedes. But yeah, Yuki was able to hold him off pretty well for a little bit. We've got a couple of people who are kind of close to the points, and I'll have to see how far back they are. But Russell and Alonso kind of sneaking up there towards the top 10. Might have a shot at some points before the day is done, depending how things shake out with these tires.
Yeah, and it'd be a great day for Russell to get some more points because again he had some really good qualifying runs as well. But yeah, all good things for the Williams, and Alonso we know is one of the better overtakers here in the series, so he'll probably be able to do pretty good.
Yeah, and very close on the back of Antonio Giovinazzi, and I think he has, with that DRS, a good potential to make an overtake here. He's got the slipstream and all, so we'll see if he just gets through going really deep, but Giovinazzi is able to come back. That is a very aggressive line from Alonso. Antonio's fighting back pretty well, though. We'll see if he can make a move, but Alonso for now has gotten past up into P11, kind of chasing down Kimi now.
Now, is this a consideration of like running wide to overtake?
Yeah, but because I'm not sure.
The position was gained in the next corner, though.
Yeah, it wasn't gained from that. Antonio was able to kind of. It's tough to say. Yeah, I feel like there could be consideration for him to have to give that position back because he never really did let Antonio retake the position.
Gotcha.
They were still kind of side by side, so that may be something that gets looked at by the FIA.
Yeah, you saw the front wing of Antonio's car was, he was like dipping it back and forth, so he was clearly wary of what Fernando was about to do.
Yeah. So, and he made sure to kind of keep his nose clean as Alonso went in front of him. Kind of gave up that fight without making any contact or anything. So, the smart decision, but definitely a difficult spot. So, yeah, looking at that incident now, the race control just put up, it's been noted, so we'll see if there's any time penalties or if they determine he has to give the position back.
Right. So. Now, looking at the battle for fifth, that is, with Ricciardo to Carlos Sainz, so it's plus 11 seconds to Max is Ricciardo, and then Sainz says plus 1 second. So is that his time to Ricciardo then?
Yeah.
Does it track the top five, or the top, the position 2 to 5 tracks in relation to Max, and then does everything else track to position 5?
Yes. Or no, so everything else tracks to the position above them.
Oh, okay.
Except I think the last position, I think tracks up to that fifth maybe. I could be or that actually might be tracking up just position that might just be that Mazepin's that far behind.
Gotcha.
Schumacher.
Okay.
So I think its top 5 are tracked to P1, and then everyone below is just to who's in front of them.
That makes sense.
So I'm gonna hit the restroom real quick.
Yeah, no problem. We're seeing a couple replays here of Fernando and Kimi getting up close and personal here. Now, it looks like Kimi lost some of his, looks like side paneling or something there, but that was the flak that kind of flew off the back of the car. We're on lap 23. We got Max clear out ahead, and if the positions stick the way they are, we would have, it looks like, what is that, like a 14-point lead or so, Max to Lewis. So a pretty big, like Aaron was saying earlier, a pretty big point shakeup. Seeing Lewis come up behind Max pretty far away in the distance. About 4 seconds back here. Interesting. So we see Lewis being about a tenth faster than Max here on these laps. So we'll see if that ends up amounting to anything here. But we've got, what is that, average of like 13 laps on the tire age. They all came in around like, so what was that? That was like lap 11, 12, 13 or so. So I imagine we're going to see pit stops here in a good number of laps away. I have a feeling we're going to see pretty much status quo here.
Yeah, for a while.
Yeah.
And we're seeing Lewis pushing a little bit, kind of gaining some of that time back on Max. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to close up that gap much. Maybe Max might just be taking some speed off to just preserve those tires and hopefully go for the one stop. So
the lift and coast protocol, as it were.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Save them a little bit. Did Alonso have to give the place back, it looks like?
I don't know if he had to give it back. I don't think they said anything about it, though, to be honest. But right now, Giovinazzi is ahead of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were focused on Max and Lewis. They didn't say anything about these guys. But now here he is.
So.
Ah, he did. Okay. So once he's like ahead of him, he can just like race him again, eh?
Yep.
That's
so
cool.
As soon as that's why I forget it. It was one of the earlier races in the season. Someone like gave a place back, but then immediately grabbed the slipstream and then immediately like passed back in the
that's badass.
But like whoever got past the second time was like not happy about it. They're like that's not how you give up a place. Like that's not that's not how this works. You just slingshotted yourself around me basically.
Jeez, oh man. That turn.
Yeah. Alonso and Giovinazzi, they are not going to be very thrilled with each other later. They're getting so close there. We'll see if Alonso tries to get the little switch around, get the better acceleration out of the turn. But for now, Antonio is holding on to that position.
Yeah, he's got him, man.
This is what I was looking for. I felt like there would be a good opportunity for a lot of these fights in the middle of the pack. And Alonso is really getting after it, trying to make some moves on Antonio there.
Now, this is the part of F1 that I guess I'm like big time in the dark about, where I could not describe to you the differences about this track that lead to it being better and easier for overtaking. Like, we've talked about elements on the weekend that have helped, right? But in just directly contrasting, like, why are so many of these cars able to battle so closely with each other, where on some tracks we see large spreads in the field with nobody able to like grab up any advantage. Is that a difference of like DRS zones, track width? It feels like there would be so many factors involved.
There's a couple, and I think one of the primary things is this track, you can kind of set your car up two different ways. So you have the potential to set your car up for being able to take these turns harder and faster and everything, have better maneuverability over straight line speed. But you can very much set your car up to have best straight line speed as well, and just use that as your kind of strategy for overtaking and all. So some of the cars are probably set up more for that maneuvering and the being able to take the turns at higher speeds. So you'll see some of the straight line speed cars overtaking during those DRS zones, but then other people having opportunities in the turns based on their setup, car design, and everything.
Right. Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. Nice.
I would say that makes the U.S. Grand Prix track a pretty like balanced one in terms of like what you're picking to or what style of racing you're looking for.
Gotcha. Now, during that very eloquent description, we had Sebastian Vettel overtaking George Russell there in what was a good amount of turns there. Ended up eking out the advantage.
Lewis still gaining on Max bit by bit, so about 3 seconds back now.
I'm curious what the attacking distances with the overtake difficulty would be here.
Yeah, not seeing any AWS graphics pop up lately.
I know. Maybe the FIA has some qualms with space, and they're like, we don't want to partner up with a company that's going to space, dude.
Never know.
Never know. Although I have a feeling that space parts and car parts go pretty well together.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that these engines on F1 cars are pretty consistent with some of the power that they have to get out of like jet engines and all, having the engine with the whole fin on the back of the car and everything. So there's probably a little bit of knowledge that you can glean from between the two. And there it looks like
Giovinazzi in the pits.
Yeah.
Concede to Vettel there and Alonso. He says, I don't want to battle these guys anymore.
Yeah. But Lewis dropping a little further back now. Max has now gained about half a second back on him. And a virtual safety car. What did we have happen?
I don't know. Hopefully we get a replay here, because right now we're just looking at...
Yeah, because now Lewis is going to be able to gain right up to Max. And Marshall got the part that came off someone's car, virtual safety car ending, but that just allowed Lewis to really just tighten everything up with Max, so by quite a bit. Track clear, green flag, Max can go. So we'll see how much closer Lewis is now once we get some times back up.
Yeah, and we had just seen Lewis coming up behind Max, and it seems like Max is in a position where he had caught up to the back markers and had lapped them either once or twice. Message from Sergio saying his drink is not working, which was big, unfortunate. Only about halfway through the race.
Yeah, Max, I think also held a little bit of ground on Lewis there, because Lewis didn't get by Antonio before the virtual safety car, so he couldn't close up on Max at all.
Gotcha.
He just had to kind of sit there. But it looks like he's definitely gained probably a second and a half or so on Max.
Clean air, though, not a position that Max is unfamiliar with, so Yeah, we'll see. We'll see as the race develops. So about halfway through the race here, Aaron, what are the big storylines that you're looking ahead for here?
Well, I'm definitely looking to see what Sergio's able to do with the tire strategy since he is going to have to take the second pit stop. It'll be interesting to see when Red Bull does that, if they do put him on the soft tires or they put him on the hards to try and kind of just run the end of the race pretty strong. Valtteri, seeing if he's able to make up any more positions. And then just seeing if Lewis is able to push and catch up. If anyone else at the top of the grid has to go for a two-stop strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm very interested to see how the Ferrari and McLaren split ends up shaking out because it seems like all the cars are relatively within striking distance, although Ricardo to Leclerc seems like a pretty big distance, so Danny would have to do a lot of work if he wanted to get up onto the podium here today.
yeah, decent gap up there, and I think at this point I wouldn't expect anyone else to sneak up into the podium of Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez. But I guess we'll see as this continues along if Leclerc and Ricardo can kind of keep close enough and maybe hold off Perez when he goes for that second stop.
What do they call it in betting? You would say what is it, the odds or because what was Leclerc 30 times?
Yeah, it was.
How would you say that in gambling terms?
It was plus 3,200.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
to win the race.
Right.
So Verstappen taking a pit stop there, giving up the race lead. So definitely determined that it's a two-stopper there for Red Bull. And so we'll see where he comes out. Just getting passed by Checo, and then the two of them can hopefully make a run back up towards Lewis, who I'm guessing at this point will need to make a second stop as well, based on what Red Bull's determined.
Right. Now we're in a position now where Red Bull has made the move first before Mercedes, and I think Max is okay. So if Perez is 16 to Hamilton, Max is 1 behind him, so he's within the pit window on Lewis if Lewis goes in. That's the distance I was looking for.
Yep, definitely. And so we'll see if this is essentially another undercut. Red Bull, I think, allowing Max to go through on Checo, taking that P2 spot back to let him just kind of run after Lewis and see if he can make up that time on the new hard tires.
It feels like on a weekend where Red Bull was able to qualify really well. We had the 1-3 start. We're seeing a lot of team play here between Max and Sergio. Obviously, here on lap 31, we just saw, I won't use the term, but Max was able to get by Sergio quite easily. So it seems like he has a lot more pace, and within that, there's an understanding that the team can earn a lot of points here today. Let's just work towards that.
Well, and Checo now coming into the pits to look to get on the second stop onto the hard tires and everything as well.
And now that's going to be 2 drivers within shooting distance of a pitting Mercedes.
Yeah, and we'll see how long Mercedes waits to pit, or if they try and have Lewis run out there, because he did just put in the fastest lap of the race, and is still 17 seconds up on Max. So if they think he can run those tires to the end, maybe, and hold off Max, Mercedes might look to do that. But I really think that they are going to have to pit one more time with Lewis, which is going to make it tight between Leclerc and Perez and Lewis there.
Yeah,
if that's the case.
Very much so. Now we just saw both of the McLarens in the pits. A significantly slower stop there for Lando over Ricardo, but they did the back to back.
Yeah,
where they had both the cars
double
slide
stack.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we remember what happened last year, we saw problems with Mercedes when they tried to double stack in the pits too.
Yeah, and that's such a difficult thing for the pit crew to do.
Tough
There's
maneuver.
so much coordination that goes into that. So you definitely expect Lando to have to wait a couple seconds extra, just being right behind him. But it's impressive that the team's able to still knock those two out that quickly together. So
Yeah, it's funny we're splitting hairs over what is 2 seconds in the grand scheme of things, but in a race like this it matters because where Ricardo and Norris were back to back with each other, now they're split by Sainz.
Yep, exactly. So it allowed Sainz to come out in between, but Sainz and Leclerc both may have to pit still as well. So that may end up with them being kind of in those similar positions. Ferrari, McLaren. Just that back and forth there.
Yeah.
So Max has gained about half a second on Lewis over these last couple laps. So making up that time, getting just about 16 seconds back from Lewis. I feel like at this point, Lewis has to just try and run those tires to see if he can keep up ahead without a second stop.
No way. There's no way. Is he? Wait. He is on hard tires.
He is,
but I don't see it happening. I think that's going to be optimistic, and he'd probably be close. But I have a feeling that it would be similar to. Did he just drop that? What? That's so funny. He said, "Lead me to it, bro." He just called Toto Wolff a bro.
They're homies, man.
I guess.
Long
That's
time
so
together.
funny.
That is. Max is quicker though, and he is gonna be gaining on Lewis. I don't know. They haven't shown us any graphics about striking distance, but I'm sure we'll see Lewis not thrilled with his tire wear in probably the next 10 laps or so.
Yeah.
We'll probably hear some comments about it. And Checo just put in the fastest lap, moves up to P3, so Max P2, Sergio P3, and Leclerc coming P4 out of the pits, just staying ahead of Valtteri.
So just thinking about the striking distance, so Max was about a half a second faster with a 16-second gap. So
at that
would
rate,
be
that's
32 laps.
Yeah,
right.
But him being on much newer hard tires than Lewis, I think that's what's going to
it's going to start cutting time
a lot faster. Much faster. So
this is exciting.
Yeah, we're gonna see how this goes.
Interesting. That was a radio message from Lewis saying, "I think these tires are still good, bro." So he's pushing for sure.
Yeah. So 17 lap difference between him and Max on their tire wear. It's going to be interesting to see because I think that Max, we're going to see him just cutting more and more and more time out. He's already down to 15 and a half seconds behind Lewis. Seems to be just taking chunks of time out, and I think we'll see those chunks get larger and larger. And right now, Checo, it appears to be not too far outside of that pit window for Lewis if he does have to pit, and hopefully gaining as well from the Red Bull side.
Yeah, and even though Valtteri is up in P5, based on the times, he's not that close at all to be in a position where his where he'd be able to drive a wide Mercedes to help Lewis out, right?
Right.
Now, I keep presenting this race in terms of both cars, but it just feels like a race where for the top 4 teams anyway, both of the cars are in it and very important to whatever the strategy is going on here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that the way things shake out have a lot of implications with the constructors standing still. I mean, we see McLaren and Ferrari so close together.
Exactly.
Ferrari currently with that kind of edge. And then Valtteri has done a really solid job making up so many positions. We will see if he and Lewis do go for that second pit stop, and kind of how much that affects them, because Lewis right now, that last lap was a second, 1.3 seconds slower.
So just like you were alluding to, that gap is quickly closing.
Yeah.
Whoa, big loss of speed. Big loss of speed between laps 33 and 34. It looks like Max gains like 0.7 of a second. We've got 3 cars all in a nice DRS train. Where is that about? That's with Yuki Tsunoda, so that's 10, 11, and 12.
Tsunoda, Raikkonen.
Damn, Yuki just eats up Stroll a little bit.
And Raikkonen coming right behind as well. So there comes Bottas into the pits.
Really good
out,
pit stop,
2.3. But we'll see where he comes out. So behind Sainz.
And then we have Alonso tucked right in behind this DRS train.
Yeah, and Bottas there ending up still in a really good spot, only losing 2 positions out of that pit stop, ahead of Lando, far ahead of Vettel. So he's holding a pretty good position for where he started and all, slowly climbing up the grid. So
gap down to 13 seconds for Max. He is on the hunt. This P1 is his today, in his mind anyway.
Yeah. Leclerc,
I love that graphic that they do.
Which one?
Where they sit the name where it has like the little grid around him. It's very like arcadey to me. I love it.
Yeah, and even right now, like, they have the graphic of Yuki's name above his car.
Yep.
That's cool. That's very video game-like. So, yeah, Kimi hunting down Yuki for that final point position right now. Mick Schumacher coming into the pits. Mazepin ways back still in P19. I'm interested, now that we're getting towards the end of the season, I'm interested to see some comparisons of how this year's rookies stacked up versus other people on the grid for their rookie seasons in terms of points, kind of how they did, team strength and everything, because Mick's shown some pretty good ability so far. I feel like he's had some nice qualifying sessions and all, and Mazepin, he just still hasn't really impressed me, and seems to always be kind of just hanging out at the back. I'm interested to see what considerations Haas looks into over the next season or so, with having those 2 drivers as their lineup for now.
And to your point about just hanging out in the back, there are situations where not only is he just hanging out back there, but he's actively creating problems for some of the other drivers.
Yeah, and between just like the different issues with car control, spinning out, having a number of incidents during the season, he has gotten better over the year, I would say, and more comfortable in the car, which is great. But yeah, as you kind of said, he just hasn't been like the safest driver of the season, and he's in one of the slowest cars. It can cause some hazardous situations, especially ignoring blue flags and things like that. That's not something you want to see. George Lucas, I don't know why he's at the F1 race, but I mean, good for him.
He likes racing, man. I would imagine.
This is pod racing.
Yeah, he's trying to get inspiration. I would imagine that's an element of like you saw, like he was on the broadcast, doesn't even react. That's got to be just the worst. Like you're just a person, right? At the end of the day,
You're just trying to hang out, watch some F1, and they're just like, look who's here.
Right. Well, I'd even heard.
And Mercedes bringing out for the pit stop. Let's see. So Lewis will be coming in here.
Max is only 11 seconds behind. He's gonna be so close.
Yeah. So now we'll see how Mercedes feels towards the end of the race. See if they expect Lewis to be able to make up that time on fresher tires at the end now and kind of come back at Max. But Max should be about 9 seconds ahead of Lewis now as he comes out of the pit lane. And Checo probably about 10 seconds back from him. So,
and there is, interestingly enough, Max is going to get the blue flag, but there is going to be a good amount of traffic here that Max and Lewis are going to have to contend with. But here comes Lewis just flying out of the pits, and this is one of the scenarios that we have to come back to, is the inevitability of Lewis Hamilton, where it seems like this could be bird in hand for Max, but who the fuck knows what Lewis is going to be able to do here today.
Yeah, I think the gap that Max has, he has shown pretty good speed, and it's really, I think it might be too late at this point for the Mercedes to gain that much time back and be able to make the pass. We do have 18 laps still to go, but I really feel as though Lewis is not going to be able to make up quite that much time, but should be able to hold that P2 pretty well ahead of Checo there in P3.
Yeah, because it seems like Perez is about 5 seconds back on Lewis. But interestingly enough, now that we've had some position changes here towards the end of the race, now we're in a position where Ferrari is making a lot of points in the Constructors' Championship with a tentative 4-6 finish. That's going to be a good amount of points for them, with Lando being back in P8 a little farther away from Daniel.
Yeah, I think that it's going to probably be about a 5 to 6 point swing in Ferrari's favor, which is a decent bit in their fight with how close they are. So just keeping that race in the Constructors so tight. Lewis coming over the radio saying it's all about the last 3 laps. So the next 14 or so, he's going to look to put himself close and see if he can make up that gap towards the end. Still about 8.5 seconds back, so he hasn't really gained much from when he came out of the pits on Max as of yet.
It's amazing that you can have that sense of pace after just banging in just 40 laps just over and over again. It's amazing to have that sense of like where his car is going to be in relation to the other one. Like after he did what? That's 16, 13. He looked ahead like 13 laps based on what it feels like in the car and says, this is where we're going to do it. That's pretty, what would you say about that? That's a pretty high race IQ, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's something that comes with a lot of experience. I mean, I think back to running and all when I was running a lot, and I could tell how fast I was going, like how quick of a mile without looking at a watch, without having something telling me like, oh, you've just did a mile in this amount of time.
Yeah.
You get such a good internal clock kind of at some points to be able to have a good feel for those things, especially I can imagine with how many laps of the same exact distance that they're doing again and again. You can really kind of pin that down.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Just like, you just hammer it in over and over again. That's the value of repetition, it seems.
Yeah.
But it seems like he's backed up a little bit behind one of the Aston Martins.
I think it's Seb, but just allowing him through.
Yep.
But yeah, he had to stay behind. He didn't have any good opportunities to get by through all of those turns on the back half.
Well, that's what's interesting about the back markers and talking about blue flags and this and that, because even reacting at your the earliest available opportunity, there's still a point where it can't happen immediately all the time.
Right.
So it is often worth bringing up back markers in between, because you are going to lose some amount of time, even if they're exactly doing their job.
Oh, absolutely. And here, Max is going to kind of come down towards a couple more back markers, and if he's able to get through them, getting back into clean air and everything, he might be able to put down some times, because Hamilton there, this last sector in sector 3, is a half a second faster. So I think with Lewis gaining, Max trying to hold his lead, getting back into that clean air like Lewis has for a little bit now is going to be useful.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And if we're trusting today's radio messages, then we really will see some hammering in there from Lewis. I'm going to use this opportunity to hit the restroom before we get to the end of the race here.
Sounds good. So yeah, 15 laps to go. Right now, positions: P1 Max, P2 Lewis, P3 Checo, P4 Leclerc, 5 Ricciardo, 6 Sainz, 7 Bottas, 8 Norris, 9 Tsunoda, and rounding out the points, we have Kimi Räikkönen in 10th. So Yuki on the hard tires, further back down in P9, but getting a couple points for AlphaTauri. Both of the Alpines out, so gaining a little ground on them. Lewis has just put down some very quick sector times, is about 6.5 seconds back from Max. So over the next 15 laps, we'll see how much more ground he's able to gain, and if he is able to kind of make up that time difference between the two of them. He just also put in a fastest lap there. And we see Carlos Sainz going down after Danny Ricciardo. Sainz right on the tail there, so we could end up seeing P4, P5 Ferrari, which would be pretty huge for them. He is right on Ricciardo's tail, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Sainz get past Ricciardo pretty quick here potentially.
Well, and then that just goes to the great day for Ferrari. You had alluded to what it was, like 3 to 5 point spread. That just knocks it up to an 8 to 10 point spread,
which brings that basically, I forget who is in the lead of that. It's very close, 10 points, but Ocon. Let's see.
Black and white flag. What does that mean?
So black and white flags are typically for someone who ignores too many blue flags, or if those are like track limits and things like that.
Oh,
so
wow. Same thing for Raikkonen too.
Yeah, so they most likely track limit things where once you get a black and white flag, and Ocon is done for the day, unfortunately. So they're going to be retiring the car. But the black and white flags, once you start getting those waived, it's like the next time you would get a 5-second penalty.
Oh, geez. Okay, gotcha.
So whether that's it's basically a warning, not just track limits have been noted. It's like once you've done that a couple of times, then you get black and white flag.
Gotcha.
And then penalties. So
yeah, here you go. Signs on Ricciardo. It's going around the outside. Switch back. Oh, he's got pace.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going for it.
So Max has just lost a lot of time from getting stuck in those back markers. Over the past couple laps, he has lost about 4 seconds, they said, from that. Just not being able to get past the back markers quickly. So that's what we were kind of alluding to before. And that's allowed Lewis to be up to 4.5 seconds back now. So So yes, right now it would be a 6-point swing from Ferrari, and then it could jump up to a 10-point swing or so. 6-point swing would put them 1.5 points behind McLaren, up in for third in the constructors.
There we go. Are we producing this F1 podcast? Or not the podcast, the show? Because it seems like we bring something up and then they show the graphic.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take it. They're listening in, following along. Sainz and Ricardo touching there, bumping into each other, and Sainz thinking that Ricardo did it on purpose, kind of forcing him the long way around and then not giving him space. We'll see. I think
that's interesting.
Close.
It looked like they bounced off each other.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
The tires kind of just hitting each other for that brief second, and Lewis taking another 4/10 out this past lap on Max. So 12 laps to go. Lewis 4.1 seconds back.
That's something interesting to note for future races. So we had talked about, was Lewis supposed to answer right away? Maybe. Now it's getting farther out. Is it too late? So in the tire life, maybe you wait long enough, and then like you were talking about the undercut, where the age of his tires, Max's tires, then begin to affect the speed, and now this is where, like Lewis is alluding to, where he'll be able to attack in the last 3 laps.
Yeah.
So it seems like to have been a very strategic choice to push out that far.
Yeah, definitely. I think another big part of it is just the finding an opening that you're going to come out of the pits in clean air, hopefully, and be able to not have to fight through as many back markers, get some good laps in on your tires to warm them up, and then just kind of easily pass back markers as you come up to them. I think that is definitely a consideration that teams take. So maybe changing your pit strategy by a lap or two to allow you to fall better into a certain window of spacing on the track and all.
That overall would promote a better overtake or a better undercut or whatever it would be. Yeah.
One thing that I don't know if there's an answer to, that I keep wondering every time I see it, and I always forget to bring it up during these race companions, when they have those helicopters flying over the track, doing video for the race and everything, doesn't that downforce from the wind affect the aero of the cars that are going underneath it?
I'm sure that it would. I would imagine the regulations are very strict as to where those helicopters are allowed to fly,
how low,
Yep. And if you notice, we only tend to see that overhead cam along the pit straight and from behind the cars. So I'm curious if it's you can only follow them. We'll radio in if a car is within 3 seconds, no helicopter shots. I imagine, like you're talking about, it's probably heavily regulated.
Yeah, I would imagine it has to be.
It'd be a distraction. If it's causing a shadow flying overhead, I imagine it's taken very carefully into consideration.
Yeah, it's just interesting because I've seen that, and it always, helicopter of all things is going to create a lot of disruption, depending how close it is to the ground.
Oh, so, heck yeah.
Interesting to, just something that's popped into my head a couple times that it intrigues me.
I imagine, as far as video capture, having those boom cranes up pretty high would seem like a good solution to not bring, like you were talking about, so much aero disruption by the beating of the helicopter blades.
Yeah, definitely. Lewis is just taking more and more time out of Max.
10 laps to go.
So the other thing that could potentially happen with Lewis pushing so hard on his tires, there is potential for him to put a little more wear than intended onto those. So we'll see if that affects his tires towards the end, if he's maybe gaining less and less time, or if he continues to be able to just chip away at Max till he's right up on him for those final 3 laps. But Valtteri hanging just off of Sainz, just off Ricardo in a little DRS train of their own kind of there.
Yeah, and it seems, well, Sainz to, that wasn't 26 seconds, was it? It looks like Sainz is much closer to Ricardo as well, like you were talking about, within the realm of being close to a DRS train.
So it looked like Sainz is close enough behind Ricardo. I think he's only maybe
like a second
Yeah.
and some. Okay, so he's just out of it.
So might be able to make up time.
Damn.
So definitely a concern for Max.
Yeah. Sounded like he's going to get you regardless.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Mercedes figuring out potentially the right windows. Lewis is gaining on Max pretty consistently. And with 9 laps to go, it does look like he's gaining quick enough that he could have a good shot to pass Max here at the end of the race. So Mercedes seems to have found kind of the right window, the right spot for that potentially.
And that is factoring in all of the data information. Obviously, there's a world where Max can defend. You know, he can drive well as well in those scenarios. But this is going to be an exciting close to the race here. But even withstanding, we'll still get a 2-3 from Red Bull, which in the constructors is going to be very valuable, and then Max will only be a little bit behind Lewis because I know Max has the advantage now.
With Lewis having the fastest lap, Max would be 2 points down on Lewis if he loses or comes in P2 and Lewis finishes P1.
Right. On board with Lewis now.
Yeah, seeing him about 2.5 seconds back here from Max. Just picking up time and just chipping away at that lead. Looking to get into that DRS zone probably in the next 4 or 5 laps to then be able to look at some moves here with about 3 laps to go here at the end.
And then we're gonna have to look for some good defensive driving from Max if he wants to keep that P1 little further back the field. We have Perez still in P3. It's probably going to stay that way, I imagine. I from last info, I don't think Leclerc is that close. But then we have Ricardo, Sainz, Valtteri, Norris, Tsunoda, and Raikkonen all in the points here for the finish of the race.
Yeah, and
any changes.
I think the only other battles we might see are really between Ricardo, Sainz, and Bottas in that top 10.
Yep.
It looks as though everyone else is kind of spaced out enough that there shouldn't be any issues. Lewis now 2.2 seconds behind Max, so just ever so slightly gaining. Looking to, like I said, get into that DRS zone. Max leading the driver of the day. Very spread out voting, it looks like, though.
Yeah, with such low percentages, it seems like there would be a bunch of other drivers that have gotten nods for that award as well. Although, it's by the way the drivers react, driver of the day seems like getting an orange at the end of a soccer game.
Yeah.
Just like, okay.
Yeah, no one's really like I still find it weird that they
chime in right at the finish.
Jump into their headphones and everything. These guys are looking to get feedback from their pit lane about things and all, and that you hear some random person interviewing you through your helmet. I think it would be better to just interview the driver of the day after the top 3 are interviewed, if you're going to do something like that. like afterwards on the side of like on the side of the grid. Like
Let me throw this one at you. What if they ask the question, why do you think you got driver of the day? I think it would show how disconnected the drivers are from the viewer experience.
Yeah.
Because you would get answers like, maybe when this, was it because of that? Because, like, you have to figure, like, 56 laps just went by in a fucking blur.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think that would be hilarious, because then you would get the sense of, like, oh, they don't care at all. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, they probably would not be able to answer a like in-depth question like that very well. Like to be able to even like,
which makes it all the more ridiculous to me.
Oh, 100%. I like if you're going to interview someone like that, like right after they finish a race is probably not the best time.
It has the same vibe as, you know, Lewis in the drivers conference, where he's just like, you know, texting on his cell phone as somebody's like asking him a question. He's like, oh, sorry. It's just, they are truly like one piece of a puzzle. And it's just, it's funny. What am I getting at is, like, you get little glimpses into the discrepancy that is the driver's life and what we as the fans see. It's just pretty funny, man.
Oh, absolutely. It's just such an interesting like disconnect. And they obviously on the broadcast want to get that additional interaction, everything. You get people's eyes on it. That's why you have the live voting and everything. That's why and they try to make it seem as though it's like an important piece to give some like gratification for the people who are voting, but
that is such a good point. It's just like an empty way to get the viewers involved.
Kind of, because the drivers clearly don't like care that much. Like Sainz last week was like, oh, I did? Like,
yeah. It's got that same vibe to it, which is hilarious.
And so Lewis now 1.5 seconds back from Max, 5 laps to go. That's going to be just very, very tough to see if Max can hold him off. And we see there on the screen, is that Vettel right on the back of Giovinazzi?
Yeah.
So DRS for Seb. Alfa Romeo's quick.
And Giovinazzi's been really, like, scrappy today. I think he's really held his own. He's up in P10. He's going to be in the points.
Has had a couple of battles with Alonso. Now has Vettel right on his tail. So, and Alonso. So both of the Alpines retiring today. Yeah.
Rear wing broke up. That's what it sounded like. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. So Max gained about a 10th on Lewis there that last lap.
There you go. That's that.
So
that could be that tire window, like you alluded to, man.
Yeah, but 5 laps to go and a little over a second and a half. We're looking to be in for quite the battle here on the last few laps. Max he's driving a really solid race, and I think this is going to be just so close. It's cool to see that the different pit strategies and everything actually do kind of come into play with that. Like, you have 2 people on very different pit strategies, and they're coming that close with such competitive cars here at the end of this race.
I feel like we could change the name of this show to Tires, because how much of an F1 race just comes down to the tires, and
conserving them, pit strategy, getting them put on quickly.
Yep, even that's an issue. Yeah, exactly.
So,
there is, and the thing that sticks out in my mind when I hear F2 and F3 drivers talk is when they have had practice sessions in an F1 vehicle, is that's what they'll talk about, is like getting the tires right and feeling the difference in them and this and that. So it obviously is such a big factor of the race car. We hear Daniel Ricciardo talking about getting used to the tires on the McLaren was a big part of the development strategy. So it all matters, man.
Oh, absolutely. And Lewis putting in a fastest first sector there, but just 1.8 seconds back, just slowly dropping a little further. And Valtteri is just still hanging behind Sainz. There we saw Seb get by Giovinazzi up into P11, so just outside the points.
And now we're coming around for lap 53. We've got 3 laps to go. We are right within the window of where Lewis believes this battle is going to happen. He's 1.8 away from Max.
Yeah, and putting in, and there's another little cameo. Ben Stiller,
A cameo
out.
for the F1 movie. That's funny.
Just hanging out. But yeah, Lewis is gonna have to really kind of drop the hammer. Yeah, and Red Bull feeding Max the info that he's held the gap down to 1.9. So that radio message from about half a lap ago, but holding Lewis far enough behind, out of DRS, and just in a pretty good position here at the end to hopefully tie this up. Yellow flag in sector 1.
No, track clear.
Green flag, track clear. So that was Raikkonen going out. So Seb up into P10. Seb up into the points. And interesting. I wonder what happened there. I wonder if we'll get a replay if he locked up and
He
just
probably
went
just
in.
boiled it.
Whew.
Whoa.
So just lost the back end coming around that turn, whipping himself around.
You heard the Red Bull engineer saying, "Be careful with your rears."
Yeah.
How they know so much, dude. The amount of data that these people like are able to work with fascinates me. And we always see it come back and like into fruition.
Oh yeah.
That's wild, man. Okay, cool.
And 3 laps to go. Lewis was 0.3 quicker on the last lap, so really, really tight there. 1.5 seconds behind. This is, if anything, Lewis is gonna have to try and make a move on the last lap. I don't think that he gets close any sooner than that, but it's gonna be tight.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Look how close Valtteri is. Picture in picture puts Valtteri like right on Sainz's tail. He's hunting for that P6.
Yeah. Oh, Max.
What just happened to Lewis?
Yeah, Max looked like he just got away pretty well out of that corner, but I can't tell if that was just the camera angle.
It must have just been the camera, because he's right on him now. 1.1.
So
he is so close to DRS range.
Yeah, he is tight there. So we'll see. Just over a second, Max holding him off outside of that DRS. About 2.25 laps left to go. Going through turn 17 here. Man, this is gonna be tight.
I know, my palms are sweaty as fuck, dude.
My heart's racing. This is gonna be a good battle.
Yeah.
Lewis is putting in some really quick sector times there, and just seeing how fast they come around the turn on his tail. Still just outside of DRS. Max is holding him off.
Once Max hits,
Is that Yos?
I believe that's his father. Yeah.
Oh, so Lewis just got inside DRS now, 0.98.
Technically, there are only 3 DRS zones left.
Yeah, so Lewis just got a message saying he feels like the wind's picking up. 1.3 second gap now, so Max just stretched that back out through that first sector. It seems like sector 2 is where the Mercedes seems to be gaining the most, but Lewis has dropped down 1.6 seconds back
About a
now.
half second from where he was.
Max coming up on Mazepin or Schumacher, one of the two there at the very back. Hopefully they will, Schumacher to stay out of the way, hopefully, of Max as he's coming through, and Lewis, just to allow this battle. Yeah, Max about the Haas. He's like, can this Haas please get out of the way?
Dude, that's hilarious. Well, because that just gets Lewis
There.
closer, thank God.
Yep, and 1 second gap now, 0.9. That really could have, and right before the DRS.
I know.
But Max actually got the DRS detection off of the Haas, and Lewis did not.
Wow, okay, cool. One
So,
DRS zone left. Max is on the
Final
final
lap, 9/10 up. This is going to be a photo finish.
Max
Lewis
is 3/10
is
faster.
Lewis gaining. He's just right on him. He, like you said, one more DRS zone as they're winding their way through this, the back turns. Turn 7 now. Lewis coming after Max. You can see just how close they are. Exactly a second behind. And Max just put in a fastest sector 1, pushing that lead, getting out of DRS. Lewis is right there, but just might not have enough left to get up to Max here at the end.
Holy shit.
This has been a hell of a race.
Well, what's so crazy is we went from thinking like, oh man, that tire strategy, he may be just way out of it now, but god damn, he is right within range.
Yeah, just doesn't look like he's going to have quite enough as they're coming through turn 15, 16. Lewis is right there, but I think he's just going to have a little view of Max's rear wing coming through
Coming over the finish
last
line.
straight.
Let's just hope he doesn't boil it into 19. That's been the toughest turn all weekend.
And
There we
there's
go.
Max.
Nice and clean.
Yep.
Wow, man.
What a race.
Wow, that was exciting. Congratulations to Max Verstappen and Red Bull Racing.
Congrats to Lewis, too. He really chased him down.
What
I mean,
a
going from
race.
how far back he was at so many points with the different tire strats and everything. He put in
Dude.
some really solid laps, raced really well.
That guy is pissed. That was Lewis's #1 fan right there. Did you see him?
That guy bet $2,000 on Lewis to win the race.
Oh, damn. I would hate to be that guy. Holy shit, man. That's so funny.
Oh, that's awesome, though. Really, really phenomenal race.
That's big points for Red Bull right there. That gives them a pretty smart lead in the constructors here.
Or in the drivers, they're going to be gaining in the constructors, so putting a lot of
Oh, Mercedes is ahead in
They
constructors
are.
right now.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, so they closed the gap. Hell yeah, papaya orange
even at the
for the McLaren boys. Pop that smoke, dude. Although I guess Max
Yeah.
is,
with him being the orange crowd just follows him everywhere. I
Yeah.
forget is it Dutch?
Yes.
Dutch.
Yes, you got it. Did you see how happy that kid was?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, yes.
Well, and like coming around that like first turn after the race ended, seeing Max flip up his visor, he just looked like
yeah.
like, oh man, like relieved. And
P1 can't be easy. P1 with Lewis right behind you has to be even tougher.
oh yeah,
That's got to be super stressful. But yeah, big ups to Red Bull Racing today. Lots of points for the 1-3. Lewis brings up P2. Any other Any other closing words here as we reach the finale of the U.S. Grand Prix?
Not really. That was an insanely exciting race. I'm excited to hear the interviews afterwards. But it was a lot of fun to be here with you for a live race companion.
Yeah, that was this was a good one. Obviously, I'm not sure it would have felt as good if it wasn't for the United States Grand Prix. But I would say look forward Wednesday for the usual release of the Tall and Short of It podcast. This has been the Race Companion.